Human history is shaped not only by the famous battles, revolutions, and discoveries that dominate textbooks, but also by quieter, stranger, and often overlooked events that altered the course of civilizations in ways few people today remember. These forgotten moments, scattered across centuries and continents, reveal how fragile the world can be and how a single eruption, accident, or unexplained phenomenon can ripple outward, influencing politics, culture, science, and human destiny. In this journey, we will explore 10 such events, each one a turning point hidden beneath the surface of mainstream history, each one a reminder that the past is far more complex, unpredictable, and interconnected than it appears. This is not simply a list of curiosities, it is a deep dive into the forgotten forces that shape the world we live in today. We begin with our first event, the year without a summer in 1816, a moment when nature itself seemed to turn against humanity. Following the colossal eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia the previous year, the atmosphere became saturated with volcanic ash and sulfuric particles that drifted across the globe, dimming the sun and plunging temperatures downward. Across Europe and North America, snow fell in June, rivers froze in August, and crops failed on a massive scale, triggering famine, migration, and social unrest. Entire communities were uprooted as people searched for food and stability, while governments struggled to respond to the unprecedented climate crisis. Yet amid the suffering, the darkness also sparked creativity. In a villa near Lake Geneva, a group of writers trapped indoors by the cold challenged each other to write ghost stories, leading Mary Shelley to conceive Frankenstein, a novel that would influence literature, science fiction, and cultural imagination for generations. The Year Without a Summer was a global climate disaster long before the concept existed, and its impact on society, migration, and culture remains one of the most profound yet forgotten episodes in environmental history. Our second event takes us to Boston in 1919, where an industrial accident so bizarre and tragic unfolded that it sounds almost unbelievable today. Known as the Great Molasses Flood, the disaster occurred when a massive steel tank containing more than 2 million gallons of molasses suddenly ruptured, sending a thick, fast-moving wave of syrup through the streets at a speed that shocked witnesses. Buildings were crushed, people and animals were trapped, and the sticky flood caused 21 deaths and more than 150 injuries. While the event is often treated as a strange historical footnote, its consequences were far more significant. The disaster exposed the dangers of unregulated industrial construction and led to sweeping reforms in engineering standards, building inspections, and corporate accountability across the United States. It marked a turning point in the relationship between industry and public safety, demonstrating that even something as harmless as molasses could become deadly when negligence and poor oversight collide. The Great Molasses Flood is a reminder that progress without responsibility can lead to catastrophe, and that even the most unexpected events can reshape national policy. Our third event brings us to the Black Tom explosion of 1916, a moment when the United States, still officially neutral during the First World War, became the target of one of the largest acts of sabotage ever carried out on American soil. German agents seeking to disrupt the flow of weapons to the Allies infiltrated a munitions depot on Black Tom Island near New York Harbor and detonated nearly 1 million pounds of explosives. The blast was so powerful that it shattered windows in Manhattan, damaged the Statue of Liberty, and was felt as far away as Philadelphia. Although the attack is rarely mentioned today, it had enormous consequences. It heightened tensions between the United States and Germany, contributed to the eventual American entry into the war, and led to major changes in national security, intelligence operations, and counter-espionage. The Black Tom explosion stands as a forgotten precursor to later attacks on American soil, a moment when global conflict reached the heart of the United States long before Pearl Harbor, or September 11th, and a reminder of how vulnerable even powerful nations can be to covert operations. Our fourth event takes us into the realm of cosmic danger with the Carrington event of 1859, the most powerful solar storm ever recorded. When astronomer Richard Carrington observed a sudden flash of light on the sun's surface, he could not have known that within hours, Earth would be struck by a geomagnetic storm of unprecedented intensity. Telegraph systems across the world sparked, caught fire, and continued to operate even when disconnected from power sources, while brilliant auroras illuminated the night sky as far south as the Caribbean. In an age before electricity dominated daily life, the damage was limited, but if a storm of similar magnitude struck today, it would cripple satellites, disrupt global communications, shut down power grids, and potentially cause trillions of dollars in damage. The Carrington event is a forgotten warning from the sun itself, a reminder that our modern technological world rests on a fragile foundation, vulnerable to forces far beyond human control. Our fifth event shifts from the sky to the Australian outback with the Emu War of 1932, a strange and often ridiculed episode that nonetheless reveals deeper truths about agriculture, wildlife management, and the unintended consequences of human intervention. After World War I, Australian veterans were given farmland in Western Australia, but they soon found themselves overwhelmed by tens of thousands of emus migrating through their fields and destroying crops. In response, the government deployed soldiers armed with machine guns to reduce the emu population. But the birds proved surprisingly resilient, scattering unpredictably, outrunning the soldiers, and surviving direct gunfire thanks to their thick feathers. The operation was eventually abandoned, and the emus continued their migration largely unaffected. While the event is often treated as a humorous anecdote, it highlighted the challenges faced by farmers, the complexities of wildlife management, and the limitations of military solutions to ecological problems. The Emu War remains a forgotten lesson in humility, illustrating how nature can defy even the most determined human efforts. Our sixth event takes us to the remote Siberian wilderness in 1908, where the Tunguska event, the largest impact event in modern history, occurred. Early one morning, a massive fireball streaked across the sky and exploded in the atmosphere above the Tunguska River, releasing energy equivalent to a large nuclear bomb. The blast flattened more than 2,000 square kilometers of forest, scorching trees and throwing them to the ground in a radial pattern that stunned later investigators. Because the region was so isolated, no scientific expedition reached the site for nearly 20 years, leaving the event shrouded in mystery and speculation. Today, most scientists believe it was caused by a comet or asteroid fragment, but the lack of a crater and the remoteness of the location have fueled countless theories. The Tunguska event is a stark reminder of Earth's vulnerability to cosmic impacts and a forgotten chapter in the ongoing story of humanity's relationship with the universe. Our seventh event takes us back to Europe in 1518, where the city of Strasbourg experienced one of the strangest and least understood phenomena in medical history, the dancing plague. It began when a woman stepped into the street and began to dance uncontrollably, continuing for hours and then days. Soon, dozens of others joined her, and within weeks, hundreds were dancing without rest, some collapsing from exhaustion, others dying from heart failure or stroke. Authorities, believing the dancers were cursed or afflicted by supernatural forces, hired musicians in an attempt to dance the sickness out, which only intensified the crisis. Modern theories range from mass hysteria to ergot poisoning to psychological stress, but none fully explain the scale or intensity of the event. The dancing plague remains a haunting example of how the human mind and body can respond to extreme social and environmental pressures, and a forgotten reminder of the mysteries that still surround collective behavior. Our eighth event brings us into the Cold War era with the lost nuclear bomb of 1962, a chilling incident that underscores the dangers of nuclear weapons and the fragility of military operations. During a training mission off the coast of Georgia, a bomber collided with a fighter jet, forcing the crew to jettison a Mark 15 nuclear bomb into the ocean to prevent an explosion. Despite extensive search efforts, the bomb was never recovered and remains somewhere on the ocean floor, its exact location unknown. While officials maintain that the weapon was not fully armed, the incident highlights how close the world came to disaster and how easily a single mistake can vanish into history. The lost nuclear bomb is a forgotten reminder of the risks inherent in the nuclear age and the thin line between safety and catastrophe. Our ninth event takes us deep into the ancient world with the eruption of Thera in the 16th century BCE, one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in human history. The explosion tore apart the island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, and triggered massive tsunamis, ash clouds, and climate disruptions across the Mediterranean. Entire cities were destroyed, trade networks collapsed, and the Minoan civilization, one of the most advanced cultures of the Bronze Age, began its decline. Some scholars believe the disaster inspired the legend of Atlantis, while others see it as the turning point that allowed new powers, such as the Mycenaeans, to rise. The eruption of Thera reshaped the ancient world in ways that are still being uncovered, yet it remains overshadowed by later disasters like Pompeii, despite its far greater impact. Finally, our 10th event brings us to the year 536, a moment historians describe as the worst year to be alive. A mysterious volcanic eruption, possibly in Iceland, sent a massive ash cloud into the atmosphere, dimming the sun and plunging temperatures across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. For more than a year, the world was shrouded in a cold, gray haze. Crops failed, famine spread, and societies weakened. The event triggered a cascade of consequences, including the Justinian plague, economic collapse, and mass migrations that reshaped the medieval world. Modern ice core analysis has confirmed the scale of the disaster, yet few people today know that a single volcanic eruption helped usher in what some call the Dark Ages. The year 536 stands as a forgotten turning point in human history, a reminder of how environmental forces can alter the trajectory of civilizations.